The eighth stage. They went until they came to the Delectable Mountains, which belong to the Lord of that hill, which we spoke about earlier. So they went up to the mountain to look at the gardens and orchards, the vineyards and fountains of water. There they also drank, washed themselves, and freely ate of the vineyards. On the tops of these mountains were shepherds feeding their flocks, and they stood by the side of the highway. So the pilgrims approached them to stand and talk, as is the custom for weary travellers. They leaned upon their staffs and asked, "Whose delectable mountains are these? And who owns these sheep that are feeding here?" "These mountains are Emmanuel's land," the shepherds answered. "They are within sight of his city, and the sheep also are his. He laid down his life for them. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Even as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep." John chapter 10, verses 11 to 15. "Is this the way to the celestial city?" Christian asked. The shepherd said, "You're heading in the right direction." "How far do we have to go?" "It is too far for any except those who shall certainly arrive there." Christian looked at the way ahead and asked, "Is the way safe or dangerous?" "Safe for those for whom it is to be safe, but transgressors undoubtedly fall along the way. Whoever is wise, let him understand these things. Whoever is discerning, let him know them. For the ways of the Lord are right, and the righteous will walk in them, but transgressors will stumble in them." Hosea chapter 14, verse 9. Christian considered the shepherd's words and asked, "Is there a place where pilgrims who are weary and faint can find temporary rest in the way?" The shepherds nodded. "The Lord of these mountains has given us orders not to be forgetful to entertain strangers. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by this some have entertained angels without knowing it." Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2. "Therefore, this good place is at your disposal." I saw in my dream that when the shepherds perceived that Christian and Hopeful were travellers, they asked them some questions, which the pilgrims answered, just as they had in other places along the way. The shepherds asked, "Where are you from? And how did you enter into the way? And by what means have you persevered so far? For few travellers who begin to come here ever show their face on these mountains." But when the shepherds heard their answers, they were pleased with them. Their countenance turned favorable, and they looked very lovingly upon the two of them and said, "Welcome to the Delectable Mountains." The shepherds, whose names were Knowledge, experience, watchful, and sincere, took them by the hand and led them to their tents, where they partook of a feast. The shepherd said, "We would be content for you to stay here a while and to become acquainted with us. And even more, we recommend you enjoy the comfort provided by the bounty of these delectable mountains." Christian and Hopeful told them that they would be happy to stay, and then went to bed because it was very late. Then I saw in my dream that in the morning the shepherds invited Christian and Hopeful to walk with them upon the mountains. So they joined them and walked along together for a while, enjoying the pleasant view on every side. Then the shepherds said to each other, "Shall we show these pilgrims some of the wonders that are to be seen here?" They agreed they should, and took them first to the top of a hill called Error, which was very steep on the farthest side. "Look down to the bottom," they said. So Christian and Hopeful peered down and saw several men dashed all to pieces at the bottom, for they had fallen from the top. Christian looked from the bodies to the shepherds and asked, "What does this mean?" The shepherds answered, "Have you not heard about those led into error by listening to Hymenaeus and Philetus concerning the faith of the resurrection of the body? And their talk will spread like gangrene. Among them are Hymenaeus and Philetus, men who have gone astray from the truth, saying that the resurrection has already taken place, and they upset the faith of some." 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 17 and 18. Yes, Christian and Hopeful answered in union. The shepherds replied, "They are those you see dashed in pieces at the bottom of this mountain, and they have remained unburied to this day, as you can see, to serve as an example to others, to take care that they don't climb too high or come too near to the brink of this mountain." Then I saw the shepherds take them to the top of another mountain, named Caution. There the shepherds told them to look into the distance. So when Christian and Hopeful looked afar, they thought they perceived several men walking up and down among a number of tombs located there. As they watched, they noticed the men were blind because they stumbled sometimes over the tombs and were unable to get out from among them. Once again Christian asked, "What means this?" The shepherds answered them with another question. "A little below these mountains, did you notice a stile that led into a meadow on the left hand of this way?" The two pilgrims glanced at each other and back at the shepherds. "Yes." "From that stile," the shepherd said, "there goes a path that leads directly to Doubting Castle, which is kept by Giant Despair. And these men," they pointed to the blind wandering among the tombs, "came once on pilgrimage, just as you do now. That is, until they came to that same stile. Because the right way was rough in that place, they chose to leave the way and cross over into that meadow."